With 75 votes in favour and 60 against, the prosecution's request to arrest the former Minister of Interior was dismissed by Parliament today. The Association of Municipalities expresses their opinions against changing the way property tax is calculated and says local governments haven't the capacity to collect it. Tirana's City Hall becomes the first in the country to prepare funds to aid citizens in cases of natural disaster or severe civil emergencies. Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Wednesday, the 25th of October 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, bringing you the day's national top stories translated into English 6 days a week. The Parliament voted today not to give the prosecution permission to arrest Saimir Tahiri. With 75 votes in favour of the report by the majority, the prosecution's request was dismissed. However, the authorisation to search the residence of the former Minister of Interior was given. The DP chairman, Lulzim Basha, said that today the majority has fallen, while the chair of the SMI parliamentary group, Krue Madhi, accused the majority of being incapable of dissociating with crime. The Prime Minister said that the vote was not made in defence of Tahiri, but in defence of justice itself. With 75 votes in favour and 60 against, the request by the prosecution for serious crimes was dismissed. Those voting in favour of dismissal included members from both the Socialist Party and the Party for Justice, Integrity and Unity. The Parliament did not approve the authorisation to arrest former Minister of Interior Saimir Tahiri on the grounds of trafficking narcotics. The former minister wasn't present in the voting process but gave a speech at the beginning of the session when he declared that his fight with justice will not end today. The report, composed by members of the majority present in the Council of Immunity, asked for the dismissal of the request, although agreed to authorise the prosecution to search the apartment of the former minister. The opposition protested with billboards bearing "No to Criminal Government." Basha accused the Prime Minister of being a collaborator and defender of criminal gangs. In his speech from the podium of Parliament, Prime Minister Edi Rama didn't comment on the Tahiri case or on the results of the voting. Instead, he attacked the opposition, saying that they must think that Albanians are foolish. Outside Parliament, Prime Minister Rama reiterated that his party's stance in the vote did not aim to defend an MP, but the process of justice. After the decision by Parliament to dismiss the request of the prosecution for the arrest of Saimir Tahiri, Prime Minister Edi Rama made an appearance at the court of the Parliament to, in his words, deal with the media. The question and answer session ran for more than 13 minutes. For the complete period of time, the head of the government harshly attacked the journalists by using such language as incapable, unread and stupid in regards to the questions they posed. The Prime Minister also told the journalists that they abuse situations and speak deliriously. You still don't understand, and you can laugh as much as you want, but the truth is that you are a big part of this problem, not in this specific case, but in general. The media makes and delivers accusations just like a copper wire, without using logic or taking responsibility of what it conveys to the people, said the Prime Minister to the journalists. He continued by adding, "Today we are here not to defend a member of the Parliament, but the Constitution of Albania, to defend law and justice. The court doesn't decide this, but you can't understand such a thing because, unfortunately, to your misfortune, you don't read and you don't even try to listen to what the matter at hand is actually about. Your questions come from ignorance, and of course being ignorant is not a big deal because it's not your job to know things that aren't part of your education. But it is your duty to learn about the things that you take upon yourselves to convey to the public." The journalists retreated with a simple thank you. In an immediate reaction, the Union of Journalists appealed for a boycott of the Prime Minister's activities on Friday. The chairman of the Democratic Party, Lulzim Basha, has condemned the way the Prime Minister Edi Rama addressed journalists at the end of today's plenary session. Basha considered the Prime Minister's words to be an aggressive attack and a threat against the journalists. According to Basha, Prime Minister Rama has lost all human balance, resorting to verbal abuse against anyone who thinks of challenging his power. The aggressive attack, the banality and the threats against the journalists are proof that Edi Rama has lost his balance. The Prime Minister can't hide the truth even from himself. He is a hostage of Saimir Tahiri and has turned into a clown whose political decisions are dictated to him by criminal gangs, declared Basha. Basha considers the attack against the journalists not only as violence against them, but against society as a whole, as without journalism and free speech, society spirals into darkness and slavery. The DP chairman severely condemns the behaviour of the Prime Minister. In our fight for freedom, rights and dignity, we all stand together. The opposition and I support every courageous journalist who didn't take the shame Eddie Rama's stance brings to the country by lying down. If we stand together, there is no bandit, even as the Prime Minister, that could intimidate or subordinate us, concluded Basha. The Association of Municipalities has objected to the imposition of the property tax based on the basis of the value. The head of the association, Agron Hajimali, argues that citizens will be required to pay 3 times the amount of tax based on the new calculations. He goes on to add that another issue with the change in calculations is the inability of the municipalities to collect the property tax, which he expects to be applied to all local units. Collecting the tax based on the market value of the property will place an extra burden on the pockets of the citizens. Collecting taxes that citizens struggle to afford also adds an additional burden to the municipalities, for the need of debt collecting practices increases, argues Hajimali. Hajimali reiterated that while it is expected that the new calculations will apply to all municipalities as of 2018, local governments are not prepared to collect the taxes. Currently, property tax rates are extremely low, and still, Tirana collects only 40% of the expected amount. Within only 2 years, the state budget has suffered a damage of €720.5 million. The State Supreme Audit has carried out audits for the period of 2014 to 2016, which conclude that there have been significant abuses of funds, especially regarding the buying and selling of state estates. For the period of January to September 2017, the State Supreme Audit has reported 29 penal denunciations to the prosecution, 10 of which are files to be examined and evaluated. 83 people have current and active denunciations. If the damage is to be analysed according to sectors, it can be observed that the highest level of damage for the aforementioned period is the damage to the sector of administration of state property. The damage is worth 2.7 million lek, which is 30% of the total value of the discovered damage in this sector. Further on, the damage resulting from the revenues in customs and tax institutions is listed, as well as the field of procurement, a sector which remains high risk due to the lack of an effective system to ensure the procurement of goods and services. Tirana will become the first city in Albania to establish reserves of essential items to be used during times of significant civil emergencies. Through the project called Emergency Magazine, Tirana City Hall is realising the creation of a special fund of food and clothing to be available during incidents of natural disaster. The special fund will serve to aid people in need in case of such certain emergencies, such as floods or other situations. Tirana is always one step ahead. We are thinking of the cold and rainy days to come, when civil emergencies might occur and essential items become needed. Such occurrences are inevitable. Neither the Mayor nor the Prime Minister nor anybody else can prevent or control the weather or immediately fix up faulty infrastructure of the city, especially that which results from natural disaster. But what we can do is be prepared to manage the situation as best as possible when such bad days come along, said Mayor Veliaj. He added that now the city is able to support 200 to 300 people should such a civil emergency arrive. Mayor Veliaj appealed to all the businesses and different non-profit organisations to contribute in order to give Tirana more solidarity and social welfare, creating special funds to be used in difficult situations that may arise in the future. I believe that following our example, many other city halls in Albania will do the same. Every city should have a preliminary provision before needing to tap into the country's civil emergency supplies, emphasised Veliaj. A similar example of solidarity is that of 1 year before, when 200 citizens faced such a difficult situation. The City Hall offered food and shelter through the social centres they established. The Emergency magazine is thought to be a place where multiple donations made by citizens, businesses or organisations will be conserved and distributed to citizens according to need. That's all for our English edition this evening. My name is Alexandra. Please join me again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. On behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.